The lizard man had previously claimed he only wanted one human, and that it would be enough for him. But now his greed was showing. With growing arrogance, the lizard declared that in his domain, everything belonged to him, and goblins were nothing but worthless, insignificant insects. Still, the griffin didn't budge. As the one in charge of the northern district, he firmly told the lizard man to return to the south and keep watch over his own territory. This irritated the lizard, who snapped back, accusing the griffin of pretending to be something he wasn't, pointing out that griffins hadn't even tasted human flesh yet and still dared to call themselves the cannibal griffins. The lizard man wasn't ready to back down. He insisted he was being more than fair by offering to split the humans evenly, half for the griffin, half for himself, and pressed the griffin to agree to the deal. Throughout all this, the lizard completely ignored Lin, as if he were some ghost of an ex. But Lin wasn't going to stay silent. He called out to the lizard, and when the creature turned to face him, he saw Lin glowing with a fiery, intimidating aura. Lin asked the griffin where this creepy reptile even came from, and what made him think he had any right to claim half of Lin's captives. He doubted whether the lizard could even digest that much, and made it clear just how precious those humans were to him. The lizard man finally turned to Lin, his eyes burning with anger. With a snarl, he asked if Lin dared to speak that way to the lord of the lizard men himself. To him, Lin was nothing more than low-born trash, an insignificant breed unworthy of respect. But just as Lin was about to unleash his powers and put the arrogant creature in his place, the Lord Griffin intervened. He stopped Lin, warning the lizard man one last time. Leave the North District now, or risk facing consequences beyond his comprehension. The griffin wasn't just bluffing. He was genuinely worried the lizard might provoke something far worse than he could handle. Still, the lizard remained blind to the threat. He assumed the griffin was just being greedy and trying to hoard all the humans Lin had captured. So, in a show of bold defiance, he declared that he would kill the little goblin leader, Lin, first, and then divide the spoils with the griffin. That was the final straw. Before Lin could even react, the griffin struck first. Not out of loyalty, but out of fear. He knew what Lin's full power looked like, and he didn't want to see it unleashed. The lizard man barely managed to defend himself, surprised at the griffin's brutality. Still, he laughed, complimenting the griffin's ruthlessness, but warning that he couldn't guard this place forever. One day, when the griffin wasn't watching, he'd return, and he wouldn't settle for just half the humans next time. He'd take them all. Even the griffin didn't expect this level of greed. He turned to Lin and apologized, saying that the lizard's hunger for power knew no limits. But Lin wasn't interested in apologies for someone else's actions. He calmly told the griffin that if he really wanted to kill the lizard right then and there, he could, but he wondered aloud, what would the people in the Grand Tomb think? The griffin took a moment to consider. Then he proposed an idea. If Lin could defeat the lizard men, perhaps he could ascend to become the southern god of the Grand Tomb. With that title, the entire southern territory would fall under Lin's rule. Lin considered the offer. He asked, half-jokingly, whether he'd still be able to slay monsters once he became a lord. After all, being a leader usually came with rules and responsibilities. He smiled slightly and told the griffin that he wouldn't need any help to make that happen. The scene then shifts, showing a forest littered with the corpses of ghost-like creatures. Hybrid goblins are seen devouring the remains, their bodies mutating and evolving with every bite. One of them, glowing with a sinister purple aura, suddenly feels his form expanding. He's grown much taller. Excited, the evolved hybrid begins testing his new power. With a single swing of his tail, now armed with deadly bladed spikes, he slices through an entire section of forest with ease. Blades begin to form all over his body, a sign of his amplified strength after consuming such powerful enemies. Meanwhile, in the southern area of the Grand Tomb, a small reptile emerges from a river, hunting prey. But suddenly, the creature freezes, its eyes widening in shock. Before him is the hand of a goblin. As the creature stalked a helpless family, preparing to make them its next meal, it suddenly found itself on the receiving end of the hunt. In a flash, the predator became the prey. The attacker was none other than a hybrid goblin, now seen devouring the reptile's flesh with unrestrained hunger. Although smaller than some of the other hybrids, this goblin still stood over a meter tall. The meat, fresh, tender, and slightly sweet, was almost gourmet to the goblins. As they feasted, they couldn't help but compare its flavor to fine human-cooked meals like roasted chicken or grilled meats. One of the goblins, so satisfied by the delicious feast, craved more. That's when the trio of hybrids shared a glance, a wicked idea taking shape in their minds. Grinning with devilish intent, they let out sinister laughs that echoed through the dark. Meanwhile, deep in the southern swamps, a reptilian mother was frantically searching for her missing child. A concerned citizen informed her that her son had been wandering outside far too often lately. It was dangerous. Monsters roamed freely, and the fear of him being snatched away loomed large. But instead of fear, the mother laughed confidently. Her husband was a southern lord, and she firmly believed that no creature would dare touch her child. Any who tried would face severe punishment. Just then, a chilling voice emerged from the bushes. "Looking for something?" it asked. Before she could react, the lifeless carcass of a reptile child was hurled toward her feet. It was her son. Shocked and horrified, she demanded to know who, or what, the hybrid goblin was. She warned him that the child he had devoured belonged to the southern lord. But the goblin, arrogant and unfazed, smirked. Instead of backing down, he began to flirt mockingly with the grieving mother, commenting on how beautiful she looked in fear. The reptilian soldier nearby, outraged by the goblin's disrespect toward both his lord and his wife, grabbed a spear and prepared to kill the intruder. He rallied the others and began advancing toward the hybrid. But before he could take even a single step, an assassin-class hybrid goblin appeared behind him and struck, piercing his heart clean through. The soldier collapsed, lifeless and defeated. The two remaining hybrids circled the reptilian female. The larger one covered her mouth, noting aloud that such a delicate specimen should be preserved for their leader, Lin. Still, the reptilian woman struggled, crying out for help, her screams echoing through the swamp.